Okay, let's try this again. I'm hoping you guys have all done your 1A scientific investigation or data collection, and you guys all did very well. I'm not sure if I really like doing all these tests. In fact, I know I don't like doing all the tests, but that's what our PLC or our group, as well as county administration, says I should do. So whether or not I continue, I don't know. This is Introduction to 1B, Characteristics of Life, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the kids to come up with 5 things that all living things have in common. And this is what we'll fill in as you can see them right there. Um, got a picture of a nice cute little puppy, and I also have a sensitive plant over here. These are 2 living things, by far not the same living things, but 2 living things that the kids can actually use to come up with these. Not going to bore you with those now because we'll do that in class. Okay, so DOGRACER. DOGRACER is an acronym to remember the 8 things that all living things have. Put a picture of a dog race up there. These are greyhounds. I can't say that I really like the idea of dog racing. It's not a very good system for greyhounds, but that's not here or there. First thing in DOGRACER is the D. The D stands for DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. And this is a material that all living things contain. It's where we get our C's and G's and our A's and T's to come up with a language that actually codes for RNA, which is going to code for protein. So it's a very important thing. It's a double helix, and we'll talk much more about DNA synthesis and protein synthesis later on. Viruses do not have DNA. That's one argument that viruses not being alive, they're more like dust particles. But they definitely can take over living things. We'll talk about that later too. The O stands for organization, where we actually have all living things are organized into a cell, the smallest part of a living object. If you go any smaller than this, you actually have organic molecules. Go any smaller than that, and you actually have atoms. And the cells make up tissues, and the tissues make up organs, and the organs make up organ systems, and the organ systems make up organisms. Organisms together make up populations, communities, ecosystems when the communities work together, and biosphere, the sphere of life. An example of that organization is this tomato plant, where we have reproductive fruits, you have dying plant tissue, you have living plant tissue, you have forming plant tissue, you have flowers, you have a root system for collecting water, and then the G stands for growth and development, where we actually talk about growth through mitosis, when you were a baby getting larger and larger and larger for male and female. Growth involves gaining mass, getting bigger. Development involves in changing or gaining of skills. So we can get bigger, but we can also get more advanced. Example is human growth, where we learn how to walk, we learn how to talk, or metamorphism, like the tadpole turning into a frog. That's the growth. First R in DOGRACER's react and respond. We have a pufferfish minding its own business, and you can see something startled it. Here's a real example of the pufferfish. Living things respond to stimulus, and that's just also to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis is the meaning of keeping internal environment the way you expect to do it, constant through life, and humans are internal system must be kept at 98.6 for our protein development and for our respiration and for everything that is human. If it gets too hot, we sweat. That sweat takes heat out of our body and goes out on the skin. Evaporation of the sweat going into the air cools us down. If we actually get too cold, we'll actually get uncontrolled muscle movement, where we actually will and I hate it when the name slips. We'll shiver, and the shiver actually creates heat, which will actually warm us up. And if we get too warm in our winter clothes, we'll actually go through this sweating, evaporation, and cooling down period. So all that's homeostasis, keeping home the same. The A in DOGRACER for adapt to the environment, where we have a hummingbird that actually has now got a very long beak and a very long straw-like tongue, which we put up into these very long flowers. The flowers probably coevolution. I've actually got to the point where they actually want the hummingbird to come in. Hummingbirds can't see color, so it's a really weird idea. There's the story about the elephant and the elephant's trunk actually being elongated. It's drinking water one day. A crocodile or alligator grabbed onto the foot-shaped trunk and stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched. This hummingbird didn't grow this mouth in one organism, and this elephant didn't grow that large tusk with one organism. It's a whole process of evolution. And there's actually a picture of an elephant in a with its trunk caught in an alligator's grasp. Organisms develop behaviors, body structures, internal features, all of them to help survive to the point where they can reproduce. This change happens over a very long period in many, many, many generations, and the process is called evolution. The C in DOGRACER stands for cell. Cell is the basic unit for all living things. It's all living things are made of cells. Organisms can be unicellular or multicellular. If they're unicellular, they're called prokaryotes, or basically before the nuclei, and their DNA is free-floating in their cytoplasm. They still have to have DNA. It's a circular type of DNA, not a strand like the eukaryotes or more complex cells have. But they still have to have a polymer in order to read the DNA to create RNA, and then the RNA goes down into the ribosomes and actually helps create the proteins. And I think it probably should be fed this direction, since it looks like the protein grows this way. Then we have eukaryotes, which is the true nucleus plants, where we actually have the DNA inside of a nucleus. We have pores in the nucleus, which allows material to go in and the RNA to come out. We still have ribosomes, the large component, the small component, where the RNA goes in and creates proteins, and proteins basically make cells. In fact, they make up everything that is you. E stands for energy. Living things must obtain energy. Some of them can obtain it from non-organic means, and others have to obtain it from eating organic material. So we have autotrophs, self-eating, where they actually use sunlight to create oxygen for themselves for cellular respiration. They also create the sugar, glucose, C6H12O6 is their food source for ATP, or creating the energy for the cell. Plants produce a bunch of oxygen, which animals benefit, and they also produce fruit, which animals benefit, and leaves and trunk material, which the animals, and we are called heterotrophs. We eat differently. They eat other organisms. An example of anything that's plant material or anything that's animal material would actually fit for this example that I've got right here. Okay, the R actually stands for reproduction. Reproduction can go on a couple of different ways. Living things have to reproduce to be able to pass on the beneficial mutations, beneficial attributes that they've got to make more of the same species. We can actually reproduce asexually. Organisms make clones. Well, that's actually done by binary fission, and you can actually see that the cell is sitting here minding its own business, and it gets this little indentation, and the indentation separates, the nucleus separates, or the nuclear material separates. It's not a nucleus, but it separates, and we get two individuals that go through the same process over and over and over again. And then we have what's called sexual reproduction, where we actually have a male and a female producing a female gamete and a male gamete that goes through fertilization to make an embryo, to make gestation, to make the youngins. And this happens with chipmunks and squirrels and elephants and sharks and other things. Asexual usually is, again, more of the single-celled organisms, although there are multi-cell organisms can reproduce asexually. Asexual reproduction also can be called like mitosis, where this baby is going to grow. So here are the things that make up life, and it's actually 8 different things, I think. Yep. DNA, basic unit, organization, where we actually organize in either life or in the biosphere. We have to grow and develop. We have to react with our environment. We have to adapt if things change. We have to have cells. We have to have energy to produce cells so we can adapt, so we can react, so we can grow. And clicked it again, and then we have energy and then reproduction. And then we're going to move into 1C, so this actually ends this particular section for 1B, classification of life. Thank you for stopping by. Bye.